Hi everyone, welcome back to the Acsom Bulletin. It is Tuesday afternoon. As our tagline says, this is a big week beginning for Celtic. We know who we'll face next week in the Champions League. Obviously, that draw happened last Thursday. I'm sure we'll touch on that. But first up will be Ross County in the Premier Sports Cup. Then we've got that small matter of the first derby game of the season. And on this Tuesday lunchtime, I am joined by Natasha and Patrick. How are you both doing after our 9-0 thumping at the weekend?
Good. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about a game like that really just sets you up for the whole week, doesn't it? It's not just the win and the 3 points in the bag, but the manner of the win, the record-breaking goals, the way in which we played. Yeah, it just sets you up for a good week, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it is going to be hopefully a good week. I'd imagine, Patrick, the players will probably return to training today if they had the day off yesterday. It's kind of the norm after a game. And they'll be going through their paces for Ross County. This is the first time Celtic's played midweek in a long time, which it seems a bit strange. Obviously, we had that wee bit of a lull towards the end of the season, just back there April May time. Patrick, do you think playing Wednesday, Saturday probably suits us better? And you don't maybe get that chance to look at stuff as much as maybe the training methods and all that hard work's been done, and Celtic are ready to get into things now?
Yeah, I think it suits Celtic in particular. You get into a rhythm because, usually for us it's July until about March time that you're in this sort of Wednesday, Saturday or Thursday, Sunday as it was the past few years. But no, I think it suits us a lot better because, I think Ange even said in that open goal interview, you can sort of work them too hard in training and then by the time you get to the Saturday, a bit like that Hearts game where we won 2-0, it gets a bit, I don't know, a bit loose and a bit sloppy, and maybe there's a bit too much time in the training pitch. But yeah, I think it suits us, guys at our level to play, Wednesday, Saturday, just sort of keeping the rhythm, keeping the momentum up. And as you say it's the first time we've played midweek since we won the league at Tannadice back in May.
Yeah, that's correct. That Thursday night up in Tannadice. Natasha, as Patrick says, it probably does suit us, and we've got a big squad to do it now, and you're going to probably see that squad starting to use to full effect. We'll come on to Ross County tomorrow night up in Dingwall, but we look a lot stronger than we were, even going back to that point in May. We've added 8 additions, but we'll come on to transfers later on. But I even think that with the game, say at Hampden against Rangers in the Scottish Cup semi-final, the Celtic team might have just came to their peak but before we maybe even played that game. It's a possibility.
Yeah, definitely. I think they're looking in very good form, so sharp in the season, which is nice to see. It has shown the real benefits of having Ange in for a proper pre-season. We know he was in for the last pre-season, but we also know how much working he had to do during that time, just in terms of the overhaul that there was. So he didn't have the sort of pre-season that he's had this pre-season. And wow, we're absolutely reaping the benefits from it now because we have fully hit the ground running here, and it just given us a flavour of what this squad are capable of if this is what we're doing, 4 or 5 games in. And you know what, that result, is as incredible as it was, that sort of 9-0 record breaking victory. I don't think too many people would have written off a result like that happening, in sort of relatively soon this season. I think all the warning signs have been there. I think the team are showing that they're absolutely capable of doing that to a team. And Dundee United just came at the right time, given the sort of difficult period that they're going through. I think they've just fallen victims to the circumstance of us playing the way that we are and them having the issues that they've had going on recently. It was just sort of the perfect storm for us in terms of what we did there. And there has definitely been a few calls at the start of the season of, will we see a double-digit victory this season? And to get so close to it already is just really exciting. It's very much showing the way that Ange likes to play football, this Ange ball that we've come to love, that free-flowing, fast-paced attacking football. It'll just be interesting to see how that fares in Europe now, and we'll come on to talk about that. But I'm certainly really pleased with the way the team are looking at this stage of the season.
Yeah, we will come on to talk about Celtic in Europe. We've obviously played 5 league games up until now. This will be our first test out with the SPFL Premiership tomorrow night, so we'll see how that works. Ian's come in the comments here to say, using the squad at Acsom too. We sure are. Lawrence has joined us. Lawrence, good afternoon. to come on to what we're talking about there with this Celtic squad, it's probably going to get used to its full benefit in the next few weeks. I had a conversation coming down on the bus from Tannadice on Sunday with somebody, and I said, I don't think that'll be the first time this season that a team gets an absolute doing off us. We threatened it last season. We beat Dundee and St Mirren 6-0 early on. Towards the end of the season, obviously, we hammered St Johnstone 7-0. They absolutely thrashed Motherwell in the last day of the season. I still think you'll probably see a few more of these big scorelines for Celtic to come over the course.
Yeah. Listen, Dundee United were fairly competitive the first 20 minutes. Then their heads went down, a bit of a collapse. I suppose it depends who other teams play against us if they try and park the bus. We've started adding goals from set pieces. Maybe that's a wee bit of benefit at time spent in the training ground now, and working with players longer. But certainly, you've got goals coming from all over the park now. So yeah, we'll expect to see some big scores, as Jared predicted last year. He said the second season gets even better, and so it's proven to be so far.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was a thing. I think every Aussie and Japanese-based journalist who's told us that are probably reaping the rewards of that, Patrick, because I think it is going to happen. And it probably, we can go back to Sunday here. Dundee United's obviously departed ways with Jack Ross this morning. That was announced. I saw Chris Sutton put up a tweet talking about knee-jerk reactions, that the board and director up there had spoken about Jack Ross's credentials as a manager and blah, blah, blah. They wouldn't, move at any kind of knee-jerk reaction, was it the word that they use? I don't think Dundee United is going to be the first team to get a doing off Celtic this season. I think that's going to maybe become a bit apparent for a few teams in the league.
Yeah, I just don't think it helped Jack Ross that it's his second doing within a month. I think he was 3-0 down at half time against AZ, and then to go out and lose another 4. And then the same with Celtic, he's 4-0 down already, then he loses another 5. I think he obviously doesn't know how to sort of close shop when you're getting beaten, you're getting humiliated, because it just seems to get worse second half. So you can kind of understand where Dundee United have come from there, but it is a bit early in the season. But I totally agree with the rest of you. I think, there could be another doing, even if it's just, I'm going to say, even if it's just 6 or 7, that's still a pretty impressive result. But it's less than 9, obviously, and I can see us taking, 5 or 6 off a few teams this season. Fingers crossed. And, another impressive stat is we've only conceded 1 goal this season, and that was a corner early in the second half at Ross County. So it's all boding well so far.
Yeah, and that was a game, obviously, Moritz Jenz made his debut. He scored in the game. He might have just, it was a bit his introduction to Scottish football. He's lost his man there. We can allow for that mistake since his goal scoring record's been pretty decent. After that, Natasha, 2 men on everyone's lips just now are obviously Kyogo and Abada. We'll come to Kyogo first, since he got his hat-trick out the 2 of them, obviously first in the game. We heard a former Celtic and Rangers striker in Sports Scene say that, about this offside rule, whether it's just luck or what. I think it's just really intelligent play that he lets the play keep up with him. And I think you'll see him do this in the Champions League too. We've obviously got this semi-automated ball introduction at the Champions League, which will judge when players are offside and what. But Kyogo's not touching the ball, he's not interfering with play, he's just making his position right, because he knows that the defenders will eventually catch up with play and he'll be in the right position with nobody around him.
That's it. It's not luck. Come on, it's just really intelligent play. And Kenny should know that as a striker. Maybe he never had that in his locker, but Kyogo is just a very intelligent footballer. And Ange has alluded to it before as well. It's not just his goal contribution to the team, it's the positions he gets himself into, his movement off the ball that's so effective for our forward line. And we saw that in abundance against Dundee United. Again, how many of our goals were scored by that square ball across the 6-yard box? And it's because of the movement of our front 3, particularly Kyogo, that's making those balls possible. So it is, for me, just really intelligent forward play. I think Kyogo is, again, just another player who seems to keep getting better and better. He just gets on with his job. He scores the goals. He makes that space for his teammates through this movement. And the way he's leading the line at the moment is just absolutely fantastic. We've obviously got Giacomakis to come back in. He was unwell against Dundee United, and suggested that he'd be back for Wednesday. But Kyogo's not the sort of player who's going to want a break. He's going to want to continue playing. He's going to want to continue scoring goals. But Giacomakis is going to be wanting to push for that position. So it's a very good problem for Ange to have. And we obviously listened to, or I'm sure a lot of people have listened to the open goal interview with Ange, where he's talking about that Kyogo Giakoumakis debate, which is something he's sort of referred to before. And, he doesn't see it always as one or the other. It doesn't always have to be that. It's just he's got a group of players available to him. Kyogo and Giakoumakis are just two of those. And who plays just depends on the game. It depends on the opposition. It doesn't need one game's particularly going to be Giakoumakis, another's going to be Kyogo. Perhaps they can both play together. And that's just a great position to be in, to have that strength and depth, particularly in the forward line, and these players who can sort of rotate through positions. And now we've gone and added Hashkabanovic to that as well. So another player vying for a position. And we obviously caught up with him at the fan media press conference yesterday. And he really recognises how hard it's going to be to get into that team, particularly in the back of 9 goals. And Abada and Kyogo both scoring hat tricks. He said he likes to play on the left or as a number 10. And he, jokingly said that his way of, making sure that he's getting his part of that squad is to score 4 goals. So again, healthy to have that competition, healthy to have them all fighting for position, and particularly with games, of the calibre coming up in the Champions League, with ties against Real Madrid up for grabs. All these players are going to be vying for position. And it's great that we have so many quality players doing that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've got plenty of quality there. And obviously, I think had Giakoumakis been probably fit at the weekend, you would have saw him come on in the game. And the way we were playing, delightfully, I've got his goal. But yeah, I think that's a real good point, Natasha. And I'll come to you in this one, Lawrence. Those balls that we do play across that 6-yard box are just so hard to deal with. And at times, the passing's so slick and the movement's so good that it just happens for Celtic. And again, you're seeing guys like Abada come in for his first start, obviously scored the hat-trick, but before that he's making those runs out in that white right-hand side area and the ball's coming in, and it's just so hard for defences to deal with. And adding Haksabanovic to that dilemma just puts us in a really good place going forward this season for Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah, I mean, we're a very quick team going forward. We're playing a lot of one-touch stuff. It's hard for defenders to pick up and, to get set because the balls get passed about, then it's wide and it's knocked across the box. It's obviously something they're working on in training, getting these balls in. And either Kyogo goes in the middle or your centre forwards in the middle or your wingers coming in at the back post. So, it's paying dividends. It's something we saw in a few games last season, from Abada, his back post runs and either getting the run in somebody for a header or just appearing out there and touching it in. So, yeah, it's very much building on the work of last season. The players are getting used to playing like this and what's expected of them. But I think, speed-wise, it's definitely an upper level this season. The one touch is having it a lot better. And I think the depth's a bit better. I mean, I thought Moy was brilliant when he came on in midfield. Some of his through balls were outstanding. He's starting to get more minutes in his legs, and you're seeing the dividend from that. It lets Callum play further forward, which is another benefit. Rio's looked brilliant in midfield before his injury, and the weekend, fantastic again. So, if you're the opposition, it's a real problem of who the danger man is, because out of that front six, every one of them's going to hurt us.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone could touch you, but we'll come on to Aaron Moy because I think he does deserve a wee bit of a chat through, especially with that ball he plays to Dizameda for Abada's. I think that's for Abada's hat-trick. But it's 6 and 5 goals. 5 goals in 6 games. No, 6 goals in 5 games for Kyogo, Patrick. I think he's going to score an absolute barrel load this season if he remains fit. He obviously got 20, and that was, missing from January till April. He was in and out for a wee bit towards the end of December. But, I think he really came to light in that League Cup final. If there was any kind of doubts that anybody had, I think we all knew that he was a quality player. But if there was any doubt in his ability, showed his quality in that game with his goals. And his second goal at the weekend is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, there's a goal of the season contender in every game at the minute. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Jota's got 2. You've obviously had the overhead kicks against Kelly as well, and then you've got that one. And it's going to be stiff competition for, goal of the month for August, never mind goal of the season. And obviously, no doubt in Kyogo's ability. You've got a situation where you could have both strikers getting 30 goals this season, because every time Giakoumakis comes on, he seems to get a goal as well. You know, he done it against Hearts, done it against Kilmarnock.
Would have did it at
He's
the
just,
weekend as well there, wouldn't he have?
aye, to get the 10th, aye, would have done.
He would have.
If it wasn't for that illness. But it's a fantastic position to be in. I mean, the chances that we're creating for players, I think we had something like, and I think on Sportscene it said we had 31 attempts and 13 were on target. So when you're giving guys of that quality those sort of chances, you are going to end up with these high score lines. But I think, you know, there's definitely no doubt in Cowell's abilities now. Definitely, in my opinion, the best striker in Scotland. And obviously we've seen turned up in those big moments in the League Cup final, as you said.
Yeah, and you know, all that debate around Jota being the best league in Scotland, I think probably Hugo Furuhashi wants a bit of a word with him too. Natasha, obviously we had the opportunity to speak to him last week at Celtic Park after the Champions League draw. We've all got on to talk about the Champions League draw. He does seem like a very grounded individual. And, you know, I think he knows going into these Champions League games how big a chance it is for him to shine. You know, he's not a young player. He's one of the older guys in the squad, which I think is kind of easy to forget about. And I do imagine he's going to hit a barrel load. But when we're talking about an older player, a younger player, obviously one of the youngest players in our squad is Liel Abada. And again, you know, last season, 15 goals, 11 assists already. This season, 4 goals and 1 assist. That this boy is a really special talent. And with every game, he just continues to improve. His intelligence for a young player is absolutely phenomenal.
It really is. And I think, again, he's one who's just going to improve over the course of the season. And what I like about him is that he takes every chance he gets in terms of game time on the pitch. He knows, again, like we've discussed, that there's a lot of competition for those places, given the number of games that we're going to be playing. There is going to be rotation, and his job is to make sure that when it's his turn, when he gets his chance, he absolutely grabs it with both hands. And I mean, just look at his performance and the goals he got against Dundee United. That is really a player grabbing his opportunity with 2 hands and saying to the manager, you can't drop me, you know, you need to be starting me. I'm playing the games against Rangers, I'm playing the games against Real Madrid. And I like that. I like his work ethic. I like his determination. And something else I liked about Abada was, you know, his willingness to come out and take, you know, the post-match press conference as well, or the interview immediately after the game. For someone that young, whose first language is in English, to come out and, you know, put yourself forward for that live interview, again, is a confidence that I like about the guy, and a willingness to put himself up for that and to speak about the game. Great, you know, good for him. He seems to be settling really well into the squad. He seems to be a really liked member of the team. So yeah, for Abada, brilliant last season and only getting better this season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm sure we'll see him feature even more for Celtic. And some of our commenters are coming in to say here, Alan Robertson, Abada, his quality, his stats are outstanding for a 20-year-old. Absolutely. And I'm sure you'll see a lot more of him. And again, it just shows you how good the depth is in the squad just now at Celtic. Lawrence, I want to come to you on Carl Starfelt. It was his first appearance for Celtic since we, you know, that 6-0 mauling of Motherwell and then Trophy Day. And there he might be even in the phone, Carl Starfelt, to talk about that. But Carl Starfelt, he got his goal again at the weekend. It's becoming a bit of a regular occurrence, the headers. Do you think that's him in now for the big games and we're back to this partnership?
Yeah, I think Ange will go with him just because they've got more experience at the back. I prefer, from what I've seen of Jens, I prefer him. I think he's more of a threat in the box, but you know, the Starfelt got 2 this season. You know, he's certainly improving immeasurably on last season's numbers of goals. But yeah, for me, I think Starfelt's going to come in. Ange is on record, doesn't like to tinker too much with the defence. You know, it's some really big games we've got coming up. I think he's going to go with more what's tried and tested than with putting Jens in. Although, you know, I think Jens looks more natural at left-hand side of the defence. I think he's probably more of a threat as well. You know, he's what, 6'4", Carl Starfelt's 6 foot. So, yeah, but I think Starfelt's, that's him back in position, and I think it's going to be Juranovic, Karavic, Starfelt, and Taylor. That's just going to be kind of settling on that now.
Yeah, but we'll come on to that kind of later on. But just very quickly, just a yes or no from both of you guys. Patrick, is it Starfelt back in now?
I think so, yes.
Natasha?
Yes. Although,
Yeah,
yes. I know it was a yes or no, so I've said yes. That's it.
I was of the opinion that I thought if Yates played at Tannadice, it would be likely that he would be the man in to go for these games. But I think obviously Ange knows what he gets from these two as a pairing, and get be back in, and it was good for him to get those minutes under his belt. But listen, we've all come on to talk about Ross County. You might see Moritz Jensen introduced for that game once again to use the squad a bit, but that's us in Dundee United. Apart from Aaron Moy, I want to come to you with Patrick. He came on at the weekend. He's been needing minutes. You know, Ange admitted that. He admitted that himself when he spoke to the press when he came in. And with minutes, is becoming a very, very good player. That Ange Postecoglou knew everything he was getting with him, having already, you know, had him as a player under him and the national setup as Australia. And I do think possibly Wednesday might be the chance that Aaron Moy gets his first competitive start for Celtic.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I can see a few changes for Wednesday. But, you know, he played really, really well. And you can see he's getting better. You know, he can be a bit maybe off the pace. I mean, he's only on the pitch for 15, 20 minutes when he does come on. So, you know, it's easy for a substitute to be off the pace a wee bit. But he done really, really well on Sunday there. And, you know, I think it's the 8th goal we're talking about when Maeda and Abada and stuff. At least two of those guys are on the substitute bench most weeks. Because usually if Maeda plays, Abada doesn't. And if Abada plays, obviously, on Sunday there, Maeda was on the bench. So it's a fantastic goal because the run from Maeda takes a left back away and then Abada can get in. It's a brilliant finish. But, you know, just on Aaron Moy, you know, I think the only problem I maybe raised on here when we signed him about a month ago or two was his age, and I think that was the only problem most Celtic fans had with him because, you know, he played for Brighton, Huddersfield and the national team, so he's a quality player. It's just, you know, being 31, and I think, you know, he's proven his doubters wrong, and I think if he does start, which I think he will on Wednesday, I'm sure he'll absolutely boss it.
Yeah, you know, there's so much creativity, Natasha, in that Celtic midfield. We've not even spoken about Matt O'Reilly, Real Hatate, Callum McGregor. But I just thought Aaron Moy was one to pick out. Just, you know, he's been one who's not had a light really shown on him. We could probably do a whole podcast, and the three I've just mentioned there, again, top performances from those guys at the weekend. But I think with Aaron Moy, you've got a player in here that's going to add you something to the squad that we needed, especially with the departures in Beaton and Tom Rogic. And he's an intelligent football player, and he does the basic things so well. You know, you expect your midfielder to pick out your own player, but he always sits again in the white jersey. And he's ball at the weekend to hit Maeda with that pass. You know, if the Dundee United team weren't already zapped, it just takes it the whole team with that pass.
Yeah, it does. I was really impressed with Aaron Moy. I think what he offers in the middle of the park compared to the players that you've mentioned is something different. He's a different type of player to that type of player. And it's his range of passing for me that sort of differentiates him from the others in terms of that he's got that sort of game. He's not the quickest, that's fine, but he's got these inch perfect passes, these long range passes, which we don't tend to see so much from the other players that we've mentioned. And he gets stuck into. We saw a bit of that. I think for me, where his value is going to be in terms of the squad and the setup that we've got is, you know, more as a squad player, a substitute who comes on perhaps in the second half of games into that number 6 role as we're trying to sort of see games out. And then he's going to be particularly effective when the opposition are probably, you know, tiring after chasing players like Hatate and Abada and Maeda and Kyogo all game. Then you bring on someone like Aaron Moy, who's going to be getting pressed a lot less. He'll have more time on the ball, and he can ping these long passes that, just like you say, absolutely zap the energy out of a team who are already tired in that second half. And it's balls like the ones that he played to Maeda, like we've touched on, that are just going to be that sort of different thing that he brings to the middle of the park. And I'm excited to see more of him. I'm not entirely sure he starts on Wednesday, to be honest. I think he might get game time in the second half, but I'm not sure that he's a starter. We can come on and discuss what we think the team will look like, but I think we're more likely to see, you know, maybe a player like Turnbull come back into the squad. I don't think McGregor will get, you know, any rest time. So I'm not sure there's a place for Moy to start. It'll be interesting. But I think he will definitely get some sort of game time on Wednesday night.
Yeah, and the more game time for him, the better, I think, going forward for Celtic just now. Talking about Lila Bada probably brings us on. No, actually, Lawrence, I think we should probably touch on this because Dermot Gallagher gets his ref watch on a Monday in Sky Sports. we'll do your ref watching this one. And one of our commentators has mentioned that Paddy's come in to say 1 minute extra time for umpteen substitutes. Now, Lawrence, before you get your part on this, the referee's job is not to be emotionally attached to a game of football. It's to play by the rules fairly. If that was 1-0 or 0-0 to either team, he'd have been added on 4 or 5 minutes with the amount of subs that happened. I don't know where he gets 1 minute from.
Yeah, ridiculous decision. Yeah, Celtic could have set a record score. We could have beaten our all-time record score with if they played 5 minutes extra. So those players on the park have been cheated out of the chance to set an all-time record score there. It's just baffling, especially when they said, listen, we're going to make it a bit clearer. 30 seconds per goal, 30 seconds per sub, so as we know exactly how much it should be, and there's a bit of clarity about it. So they seem to have brought it out, and then the ref just ignores it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously, as you touched on there, 4 goals too in the second half. So I don't know where he gets that from. There's probably a reason why. I think McLean only refereed 1 Celtic game, and that was a League Cup game against Raith Rovers last season. I just think it's a bit of a strange one. As I say, I don't think his job is to be emotionally attached to Dundee United or any club that's in the the other end of 9-0 mauling. It's to play the rules fairly, and I think in any other game, 0-0, 1-0 or whatever, a tight game, they played a lot more time. But yeah, we want to do the Dermot Gallagher segment there with you, Lawrence, and I totally agree with what you said.
The Fletcher booking, I'm thinking that's, if it's a fair challenge, and it's an accidental collision, there's no booking. But if he's late, it's dangerous. He studs it up, he's keeping the head, it's a red card. I just don't even see where a yellow comes in yet from the ref. You're either saying the ball's there to be won and it's a fair challenge, it's just an accidental collision. Well, why you yellow card again?
Yeah, it did. It looked like a sword one, to be fair.
Looked late to me.
Yeah, and all praise to Joe Hart for playing on in that one. That I'm not too sure about the rules around that. It looked, and again, but we're talking about Dundee United earlier on. That goes in, it's a completely different game. I think up there, another great save from Joe Hart, and well done to him for playing on, because if you're 5 minutes maybe into the game, if your goalkeeper's going off, then you're a wee bit worried. But he played on, and another clean sheet for Joe Hart. We'll move on to Joan Moffat with you, Patrick. Now, we're talking about Leila Bad there. We've got a player there, 15 goals, 11 assists last season already, 4 goals, 1 assist this season. Joan Moffat, 20 years of age. We saw him feature twice in the league last season. He came on in the game up in Dingwall when Ralston got that late winner. He played at St Mirren in that 0-0 draw when a lot of Celtic fans thought that the league was over, and he obviously came on in the League Cup final. But we saw very little moments of him last season, but his departure to Blackpool permanently has been confirmed today.
Yeah, I was quite surprised when I seen that. Obviously, that was announced about 20 minutes before we came on. Yeah, I didn't realise how little game time he had. I thought he played a lot more than that, but obviously just sort of remember things differently. I'm not too sure. I thought he was a decent player. Obviously, it's a bit difficult when you've got, a bad what is 6 goals in 5 games or something, and then we've just signed Haskabanovic, obviously Jota Maeda. You've got Forrest and probably Mikey Johnson as well ahead of Owen Moffat, so there is a lot of competition for places. I think it must have been the player that wanted to go, because I think we'd have tried a loan or something before eventually selling him. But yeah, just a bit surprised. I wish him all the best. I don't think we're losing anything short term. You never know long term the type of player he can become. But I'm just a wee bit surprised.
Yeah, I've been interested in wanting to see how his career develops down south. Natasha, what's your take on this one? But I think what Patrick touches on there is a really good point. At 20, he's still playing in the B team for Celtic. He's probably looking at the other wingers ahead of him at the club and thinking, I've got absolutely no chance here of breaking into that team. And he's maybe just thinking he had to go down south to prove himself, and an offer was on the table for him. He's maybe thought, we've had this conversation before on here, that for his career to progress and develop, he just had to make that move away from Celtic.
Yeah, absolutely. But I probably agree with what Patrick has said there, that maybe a loan move would have been slightly better. Go out and get a little bit more first team experience in a perhaps, sort of more competitive setting than the B teams is at the moment. In terms of the standard of football that they're playing at, I suppose, in terms of rather than competitiveness. But yeah, maybe go and try and play at a slightly higher level of football, see how that turns out for him over the course of a season. sadly, and we don't want to talk about this, but players like, Jota, Maeda, Abada, they're not going to be there forever. So, he's only 20. I know, same sort of similar age to Abada. But yeah, I'm surprised that he's decided to move on at this sort of earlier stage in his career. But I'm mostly surprised that Blackpool have announced that he's going to be part of their development team setup. So, he's not going in his first team squad there either. So again, he's really just sort of switching one B team for another B team. Maybe his view is that he's got more chance of breaking into the first team at Blackpool with the players they have compared to Celtic with the players we have. Yeah, a shame to see him go, but good luck to him if it was his choice, if it was the club's choice, then it is what it is. We're well covered in that position.
Yeah, but we're absolutely well covered. But I think there is a point to be made in that, as you say, probably a deal maybe Celtic would have been looking to do would have been a loan move. But ultimately it's probably been up to Joan Moffat, and as you say, even though he's getting into that development squad down at Blackpool, he might just see the pathway into the first team down there. A better opportunity for him to break in and let his career progress. But I'm sure we all wish him the very best, and it'll be one to keep our eye on. But yeah, I think Lawrence, that kind of feeds back in, but we've spoken about it on here loads and loads of times about pathways into the first team, development into the first team. Obviously, I think it was last week or just before that, it was announced that obviously Tommy McIntyre had departed, the set up there. Darren Day and Stevie McManus now joint coaches of the B team. I'd be interested to see how they progress this season. Obviously, a guy like Johnny Kenny, who you'd maybe imagine would have featured quite a lot from. He's went out to Queen's Park, so probably some of the starlets should maybe have picked on that B team have went out and loaned to what you would describe obviously as a higher level to the Lowland League. But one move that I'm finding really, really interesting just now, and from what I read yesterday, it's back on, is Dylan Reid from St Mirren. Do you think, obviously, I think Ange has said in comments that I've read before on this that McManus and O'Day are doing any transfer business like that completely separate from his scouting. But I find that pretty interesting that Celtic's looking at a player that's obviously featured for St Mirren's first team, but I'd imagine any deal for Dylan Reid would mean that the 17-year-old would probably go into Celtic's B team setup.
At centre half, you'd think that's where he's going. I suppose we've talked about loads of time. Nothing's truly replaced the reserve league for the standard that they play at or what the players learn. It was great for bringing players back from injury. You're talking about guys needing minutes. They would get that compared to in the reserve league. It's something we need to try and solve. Dylan Reid, you'd think he'd come in. It's probably McManus and O'Day's job to identify people that's going to add value and get potential to make it to the first team in the future if they get out and bring them in. You've got to look at it. I suppose Joan Moffat's looked at it. I'm surprised he's went into our development squad. I thought there'd be a better option for him, but you've got to look where you're going to get minutes as a player, how you're going to develop. And for Dylan Reid, I'd be surprised if he's already played for St Mirren's first team. If he was to choose Celtic's B team over that, it's kind of, is that going to be best for his development? Because you heard Motherwell talking about it a few years ago when they had a lot of young players coming through. The offer they could make to young players is like, you do well in training, you're playing in the Premier League, you're in a team. It's not you're in a B team or you get maybe 5 minutes here and there, or you get in the match day squad. The offer is you get in the team, which when we look at players we put out on loan, Christie, Ayer, etc., and they got those minutes in the Premier League, certainly helped them develop. So you can see why it's attractive for younger players to go and get minutes at a decent level. Blackpool development squad, I'm not too sure that's the level. But Natasha said, Moffat maybe thinks he'll get in that first team quicker. But Dylan Reid, if he comes, I'd be surprised, if he's swapping, potentially starting for St Mirren or playing in the SPL to play for a B team, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. He was left out the St Mirren team at the weekend, not even in the squad for St Mirren at the weekend. He's featured, kind of bit part player for St Mirren, and supposedly, from what I'd read, that the buddies had accepted that the Celtic bid. I think the market has changed a wee bit since then, and it was ultimately Dylan Reid who then said no, he didn't fancy it. But I don't know whether there's been a breakdown within his relationship between him and Stephen Robinson at the club, or just chances that he's going to get that he maybe just sees this as a better move. And listen, Celtic could bring him in and loan him out to wherever. Obviously, we've seen guys like Adam Montgomery who played a bit for Celtic last season. He's out on loan at St Johnstone. You've got Liam Scales at Aberdeen. Johnny Kane, obviously, I've touched on at Queen's Park. A few other boys out on loan. So interesting one to see, and that'll bring us on to transfers probably just now. There's obviously 2 days to go in the window, Patrick. We've brought 8 players in. It's been busy for Celtic. We've certainly improved the squad. To think back to that old Peter Lowell quote of, you go into a transfer window and you want to come out stronger for a change. We've definitely did that. I think any window under Ange, we've definitely did that. Even losing guys like Rogic and Beaton, we've still strengthened the squad. Sietak Sabanovic, the latest guy in. Natasha touched on him earlier. I liked his wee quip yesterday when they were asking him how does he get into a team, and when 2 players, I think it was boys from 4 Times in a podcast that asked him it, and he said, well, if they score 3, I'll score 4.
That is quite good, actually. It's definitely been a good window. I think there was only a handful of windows under Peter Lowell where you could definitely say without a doubt before a ball was kicked that you came out stronger. We'd obviously won those 4 trebles in a row, but on the open goal interview, Ange said, he's got 4 or 5 different wingers and they all do different things, and I expect Hakskabanovic will be exactly the same. He'll offer something different completely to the 4 that we've already got, because why have 2 players who can do the exact same job? It's been a fantastic window overall. Unsure if we're going to get anyone else in. Obviously, Ross Barkley's probably the name at the moment. I'm not too keen on that personally. I don't think he'd be a first team starter, and then whether he'd take a wage cut or not, we've seen guys like McCarthy who you think might walk into the team but then end up sitting on the bench for loads of money. It's been a good window so far. I'd be happy if we never signed anyone else. I think the squad's fantastic as it is. He said as well, 2 guys competing for every position. When have we ever had that? It was sort of Ralston and Jovanovic you had last season, and then towards the end Kyogo and Giakoumakis. But this season you've truly got 2 guys in every single position, especially with Bernabe coming into the team now. So I think it's a fantastic window.
Yeah, I think Celtic's recruited well in this window. Would be, some players have came in that we've not known too much about, and once again, Ange's eye for a player works. And again, I found it really, really interesting. I read some of Ange's comments in James Forrest in the press today, and he was talking about how important a player he is in the dressing room. I know he's a player who divides opinion a bit amongst Celtic fans, but I think that was in that open goal interview. I read it in one of the papers this morning, and the biggest thing I've got here, he said you need guys like him, and that's why we re-signed him last year. So obviously Ange was also a part of getting him back in. He said he's still very much a part of the club, and even though he's not played a lot of football yet this season, he'll play a big part in what we're trying to do. When you're building a football team, it's not just about the team itself, it's about the people you've got in the building and how you can build a culture. That's something we've obviously spoken a lot about on here, is the culture at Celtic. So very interesting. Natasha, as I've said, there's been 8 in. We've got some of the big earners. Werner is the player we're going to come up against in Leipzig, and things are dropping. It's all kicking off on here. But we've got some of the big earners off the wage bill. Julian's obviously departed. We knew that Beaton and Rogic were going to go. Who else do you still think probably needs to move out the door for Celtic's perspective in terms of wage saving and even for their careers to progress?
I think the obvious one's obviously Ajeti. I think that we're very much looking to get him off the books, and like Ange mentioned, whether anyone else comes in is going to be dependent on who's going out. And I think probably the key person still to move on is Ajeti. I think we'd also be looking for a move, be that permanent or loan, for Mikey Johnson. So those are the 2 shifts that I think he'll still be looking at. I think he'll still be trying to get something done for them, and whether that happens might then make someone come in the way. Whether that's Barkley, I don't know. Like, I'm probably Patrick on that one. It's not one that particularly excites me. I'm not sure that he's the sort of player we need. But again, like we say all the time, if Ange thinks so, then I'm fully on board with it, because he doesn't tend to make many wrong calls in terms of the transfer market, if any. And yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying. This is a really good transfer window. And yes, we absolutely have strengthened. Something that people have mentioned, which Ange addressed in that interview we've been talking about, was, well, you know, two of the key signings were Jota and Carter Vickers. Are you really strengthening when they are the same players that were here last season? And I really liked his response on that, which was, they're not the same player from last season. We haven't bought, you know, Jota and Carter Vickers from last season. They're this season's Jota and Carter Vickers, who are only going to keep getting better. And he thinks, as I do, their best games are still ahead of them. You know, so we've got these players in now who have so much potential, who are going to continue improving, who are going to continue getting better in terms of what they can offer to the team. So we have strengthened simply by retaining those two players for another season and a season after that, and hopefully many seasons after that too. So we absolutely have strengthened, and the players we've brought in around that as well. Again, really positive about. The one that, you know, we're still excited to see is obviously Hashkabanovic. Haven't seen what he'll look like yet, the sort of impact he's going to be able to have on the team. So even if we don't bring anyone else in, I think this is a very, very, very good transfer window. Whether we do bring Barkley in, I'm not sure. I think people have mentioned before, do we need him and Moy and McCarthy? I don't think so. We'll see. But I think if I had to bet on it, I don't see any more incomings, but I don't see that as a problem either, because the squad's in really, really good shape.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Lawrence, what's your take on this? I would agree that with Natasha on the stuff around Jota and Carter Vickers. You know, when the window opened, they were not Celtic players, and Celtic did have to part with the money, even though if it was in the option to buy. You know, budgets are set. That is how Celtic work as a football club. We don't tend to go out and spend 6 million. You know, early on in the window. Obviously, that Champions League money was a bonus. Having it, I'm probably still of the perspective that had Celtic not qualified maybe automatically for the Champions League, they would have held back like they have did in previous seasons. But I think lessons are starting to be learned within the building. We're doing our business early, and it's put us in a right good place. Do you think there'll be any more incoming signings?
But listen, we're always pretty prudent as a football club. You know, we don't have outstanding bills at the news agents or face painters or anything like that. So yeah, I think qualifying for the Champions League, let's speculate, you know, and get players in early. You know, if a Yeti goes, Mikey Johnson goes, it will free up some money. But you maybe be looking at Scott Robertson, who I really like as a player. A couple of cracking loan seasons. Doesn't seem any to be near match day squad. If we got another centre half in, would we let Welsh go? Because he seems to be dropping down the pecking order all the time. And I don't think he's done anything wrong when he's played, but I'm not too sure, you know, how high up in the manager's plans he is. So I know we've had a couple of bids from him in the past, haven't we? You know, one from Udinese. So
yeah, French teams too have also shown interest in Stephen Welsh.
So it's maybe looking at who's out there and who would add value. You know, if you've got a cracking centre half, you know, who knows? We might do that and then say, well, we can afford to move Welsh out either on loan, because I think he should go on loan, develop him, get minutes in his legs, then come back. You know, I really don't know what's going on with Robertson. 2 cracking loan deals, but he's not involved in a matchday squad. And we're talking about bringing in another midfielder, Ross Barkley, who, you know, I think we're maybe a wee bit light in attacking midfielders. I think you could possibly, you know, challenge O'Reilly up there if you can get back to match fitness. You know, he's definitely a decent level of player. You know, he's got the Premiership experience. I take point, you know, McCarthy came in, he had a few injuries, you know, he still played enough games to get a league winners medal. But there was Joe Hart coming, you know. So it's maybe the 2 extremes there. So Ross Bartley at 28, I think he'll definitely add something to the squad. I've heard that, you know, the other side of the city are interested in him as well. You know, it wasn't unknown for Peter Lyle just to sign players, maybe Scott Allen. The other side were interested in
the past.
Yeah, you know, apparently they're interested in Chris Collins is too. So yeah, I would take Bartley, kind of see more action happening. You know, I'd definitely like to see a Yeti go, probably Mikey Johnston go on loan, and then the other players are Robertson. You know, I don't think it's going to happen for him at Celtic. So probably sell him, get money to reinvest in the squad. Stephen Welsh, if you're getting our centre-half in, put him out on loan, get minutes in those legs.
Remember though that UEFA
and
rule
see what deals are
with
there.
Stephen Welsh, it's going to be important because if you do move Mikey Johnson out, I've spoken about this homegrown rule. You are going to need people in there from the own setup, the Celtic setup. So there needs to be a wee bit of balance with that. And I do think Ange.
I think that's why McCarthy stays, isn't it? As well. Another reason why McCarthy stays.
He's part of that homegrown rule too, because obviously he started out at Hamilton, absolutely. But it's interesting with that kind of feeding into it because that will be, Ange Postecoglou will be aware of that he needs that rule, or you're a man down within your match day squad, at the Champions League. But Stephen Welsh, I think he's one who will still get minutes this season. I was in the post-match with Ange after the Aberdeen game. He obviously scored on the opening day, and he said it was a really important part of what he's going to do here. Like probably what we were saying about Moffat earlier on, Natasha, you were talking about those forward players, maybe not being here forever. That could be the case with Cameron Carter-Vickers and other players. So I think guys like Stephen Welsh are important to hang around. If he's happy with where he is at the club just now, he's probably, just happy to be part of the Celtic setup. Another name in that list that you mentioned there, Lawrence, I think you kind of cleared the decks with the guys that are in everybody's tongues is Liam Shaw, obviously out at Motherwell on loan last season. Definitely don't think Liam Shaw was an Ange Postecoglou signing. He was in the door with Osaze Urhoghide before Ange was even in the door. And the big man who looked fairly okay in Ange's first pre-season. Don't think it's going to really happen for him at Celtic. Might be one who the club look to move on. But apart, I think Albion Ayeti's a man on everybody's lips. £5 million he came up here for 2 years ago. It's not happened. We knew he was bought to play in a 3-5-2. Ange ain't going to be accommodating Albion Ayeti anytime soon. There has been bites for him, and hopefully he does depart, even if it's just a small percentage of his wages getting paid. Because even when you look at Lennoxtown clips or images, you don't really see him involved. And much like Chris Julian, I imagine just that Ange's had a word with him and saying, "You're not part of the plans here. It's time to go."
Yeah, and he was walking about in Trophy Day with the sunglasses on, not with a care in the world. I don't even know if he's fit. I don't even know if he's back from his injury. I've not got a clue because he's never in the squad. He's never in training. You don't really hear about him, and you can absolutely guarantee that he's got a big wage. Probably 18-20 grand a week. And I think it was actually you said to me when he first signed. David Moyes hadn't heard of him when he was asked about Ayeti going to Celtic. He goes, I don't know who that is. So I think it was doomed to fail for the beginning, really. I don't think he ever really impressed, did he? Apart from maybe 1 or 2 weeks where he got a couple of goals. Just a disaster from start to finish, really. Him and Barkas got to be up there with 2 of the worst signings we've ever made. But, I'm not really selling him to other clubs here, am I? He's brilliant. He's actually fantastic.
Try and talk him up a bit. He was unlucky until he got that injury against Hibs. Don't forget, he scored a few goals.
Guy. You need to sign him up. No, hopefully he goes and McCarthy. I think there was talk of a loan a couple of weeks ago. Maybe at the beginning of August. That seems to have gone quiet. And then Mikey Johnson as well. There was a loan to Belgium about a month ago. That's gone quiet as well. So. I don't know. I think Ayeti's definitely the main one, though. Need to get rid of him because he's nowhere near the team.
Yeah, and he's probably the biggest earner that's left, maybe apart from James McCarthy. But I think one of the sticking stones is that UEFA match squad, probably Natasha, James McCarthy, and the fact that Celtic got him in a free, which is probably justifying the wages about. And there was even an image that appeared last Friday with Ange giving him a good old cuddle at Lennoxtown. So he seems to be a part of the plans. I don't think he'll be moving on probably anywhere. But would you agree that guys like Ayeti probably needs to go? And I think at this point, we've spoken about Mikey Johnson so much. I don't think was he on the bench on Sunday, Mikey Johnson? From memory, I can't remember. Somebody will tell us in the comments. But I think for a wee bit of his career to progress, I listened to Peter Grant the other week on Go Radio saying that the boy needs game time. He's not like James Forrest where, he's towards the end of his career. He's still very much at, the start with the amount of games that he's played, and he does need game time to possibly, show Ange what he can do.
Yeah, that he needs game time regardless of where it is now. Mikey Johnson isn't as young as he was. He's not, a sort of 18, 19-year-old trying to break through. And regardless of whether that's a loan option or a permanent option, he needs to go somewhere and play football at this stage of his career. It's absolutely vital. I think something we've discussed before is that he's a confidence player. He gets better with more game time, and he is at Celtic right now just not getting that game time, and there is no real prospect of him getting that game time that he needs with the players that he's got in front of him. So for his own career, his own development, it needs to be a move. Could that be a loan move? Like we've touched on, these players move on. Is there then a role for him? So does he go on loan, try and get that game time that he needs, get his confidence up and come back? Or does he just think that he needs to start somewhere else that's going to guarantee him more game time and a sort of, relatively more secure basis with a permanent contract somewhere? I don't know, but if I was his agent right now, I'd definitely be looking, and if I was him right now, I would be looking for a move somewhere, and I'm sure Celtic are definitely trying to help with that. Ange mentioned it relatively early in the window that a loan move for Mikey Johnson was something that he was looking for, so I'm relatively surprised that that's not been sorted yet. But I think the key thing, if it is a loan move for Mikey, I think the key thing is that it needs to be to the right sort of team, and this is maybe something we've discussed here before. But there's no point him going to a team that are going to be on the back foot for 80-90% of their games, because that's not going to let him develop the way that he wants to develop. If we're looking at a team who plays long balls and isn't really utilising their wingers, again, that's not the sort of place that Mikey's going to go and develop his football in the way that he needs to. So it's not only about finding him a move, it's about finding him the right move for him as a player with the right team. So maybe that's been slight hold up. To be honest, I'm surprised it's not been Hibs. Again, I know they aren't playing the sort of football.
I wouldn't wish that, and Mikey Johnson got your Hibs.
The only
No chance.
the thing that made me think that might have been an option was the McGeady injury. I don't know if even him for the opportunity to go in and sort of take that over from McGeady while he's injured. Lem for someone like McGeady might have been a good option for him. But obviously the way that things are going at Hibs at the moment is perhaps why that one's not worked out. But yeah, I hope he finds something. And maybe that's going to be one that we see pushed through in the last couple of days of the window. Maybe we've been looking at options, waiting to see what arises. Other teams have been doing the same thing. And that'll be one that we see in the next sort of 48 hours.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I think, obviously, as you say, Natasha, they're pulling up at the end of this week where these players' future lies. Thanks to Patrick there. Another Patrick in the comments telling us that Mikey Johnson wasn't in the bench on Sunday. And again, there's Giacomakis dropping out the team due to an illness. It'd probably be the time that if Ayeti and Johnson were, part of the plans or fit or whatever, would be getting that chance in the bench due to Jacko dropping out, but not featured on it. We've got roughly about 10 minutes left, so we'll try and touch on County. Lawrence, obviously been up there this season, 1-3-1, eventually got there in the end. Do you imagine that Ange will make too many changes for this game?
No, I wouldn't think he'd make too many. He'll make changes during the game, but I wouldn't expect to see too many changes to the starting lineup. I'd probably start with Starfelt again. I think he's probably needing minutes. He got a decent one out. Big Fletcher, he's a decent striker. He gave him a bit of workout, certainly the first 20 minutes. But, rotate the team for Wednesday. I think we're a wee bit early for rotation. If we're getting fatigued at this start, part of the season, it's a worry. I don't think it'll change too much, but I think, fully expect to see, all 5 subs used. I think Ange, maybe we need to stop thinking about players getting dropped, and because he uses the 5 sub really well, doesn't he? You expect.
I don't think that's a word he uses. It's not in his vocabulary. Players getting dropped, is it? It's just about rotation. Yeah,
it's somebody like Abada. He's going to get minutes. Him or Maida will get minutes. Giacomakis, both of them will get minutes in a game. So, yeah, I expect to see him yet again make use of the squad, but I don't think it'll change much to the starting lineup. We're playing a fairly agreed Ross County, who maybe came out with a point to prove. We'll feel hard done by in the last game. So, yeah, it'll be a challenge up there as it always is, but I'm sure one that we'll overcome.
Yeah, obviously, Patrick, it's been a competition that we've been very successful in recent years. I don't think you can underestimate how important it was to get the League Cup over the line before December. I think it gave all of us as fans a real happiness and belief again in our team that we could go and do something. and get that league title over the line. And it gave obviously a lot of the group that their first taste of silverware. I think there's a lot of good points in that Lawrence makes there. You know, players will be given opportunities this season. I don't think Ange Postecoglou's got a set starting 11. Do you think there'll be many changes? And I want to just bring in one of our comments here from Alan Robertson, who's asking, do you think that Benjamin Siegrist should be made our cup goalkeeper? So build that into what you're going to tell me about what Ange Postecoglou is going to do tomorrow night.
Maybe with that head note to heart, maybe Siegrist could play, because you know, it is a cup game as well. You know, I think he'll stick with the same back four. I think it'll maybe be McGregor, Hatate and Moy in the midfield, and then, you know, the front three, it's difficult. Or you go with Maeda or Abada. I think you have to go with Abada, don't you? Jota, Kyogo and Abada. You know, maybe give Giakoumakis a bit more time to come back from the illness. But it has been massive for us, you know, ever since Ronnie won it in 2015. I think there's only been 2 seasons where we haven't won it, which was 2016 and 2021, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. St Johnstone, and was it Ross County that won it the following season after Ronnie? Is that right?
Aye, they beat Hibs. Yeah. So, big competition for us. And I think Ange said at the time, or I think it was at the end of last season, he said, you know, he wanted to have something to show for it, you know, all that work that he'd done in the first half of the season. And I think he said it was actually like playing 2 seasons. You know, there was so many games in the first half, it was like playing 2 seasons, and he wanted to have something to show for it. And, you know, we did that. And, you know, it's a competition I like, because it sort of staggers your season. You've got something to work towards in the first half, then you can sort of focus in the Scottish Cup in the second half. And, you know, Ross County away, you know, it's a game that we should be winning if we're near our full strength. So, looking forward to it.
Yeah, interested to see what Malcolm Mackay does too. I'd imagine the league might be more his focus at this point in time. They've not had the best of starts, the Staggies, but we'll see how that goes. Natasha, a lot of commentators are commenters are coming in and saying 4 changes for tomorrow night. So when I'm saying 3, what's your take on this? And just to pick up Jerry asking, is Haksabanovic fit to play on Wednesday night? I don't think we'll maybe see him for maybe another week to 2 weeks, possibly. You might see him feature on the bench at one point, but due to you know, I don't think he's really had a proper pre-season. He obviously been out for that wee loan spell at Djurgårdens in Sweden. I think he's been training majority of the time alone, so I don't think you'll see him yet. How many changes do you think we'll make for tomorrow night's visit to Dingwall?
It's hard to put a number on it, but if I'm thinking through it, then I wouldn't be surprised to see Siegrist coming from Hart. I don't think that's because Ange will have a cup keeper as such, but more to do with the fact that, you know, Hart did take that knock. If we want to give him slightly more time to recover, then, although he did jump straight back up, but if we're, you know, being a little bit more sensible about it, then maybe we put Siegrist in against Ross County and give Hart the break. I'd also probably put Ralston in at right back. Again, give Jura a bit of a break, and I do think that sort of game is one that fits Ralston well. There's a bit of debate in my head about what we would do with Starfelt or Jens. I think
play both.
I think Starfelt and Carter Vickers are going to be the key to. I think we saw that by Starfelt coming back in. Jens had been doing exceptionally well for me. I thought he'd been playing really, really well, but with Starfelt coming back in against Dundee United, I think that was an indication of Ange wanting Carter Vickers and Starfelt to have more time together before we get into the games like, you know, Rangers and Real Madrid and things like that. If that's in his head that he wants the two of them to play a bit more together, then I think Starfelt stays in for Ross County. He's not had a lot of game time this season, we know, so maybe to get a little bit more game time under his belt, then we keep Starfelt in there with Cameron. But if it wasn't for that, then I think Jens would be a good option. So that one for me is up for debate. But if I have to come down on it, I think we'll see Starfelt again. I think Taylor will retain his position at left back. And in the middle of the park, the change I expect to see is probably more Turnbull coming in. Hatate might keep his place, I think. Maybe O'Reilly.
Played very well on Sunday. Both did. So it'd be unfair if any of them do drop out.
But then again, it's more about rotation than them being dropped, I suppose. But they'll all be really wanting to prove themselves, and this is one of the last chances to do so for some of the, you know, more the bigger games come up, if you like, if we call them that, or more difficult games is probably the better phrase. And yeah, if Jackie Mackis is recovered from his illness, then I would probably have him in there for Kyogo and give Kyogo a bit of a rest. So on the basis of that, we are probably looking at 4, maybe 5 changes to the squad. But the 5 subs thing and the strength and depth we have means that if anything wasn't going to plan, then there's plenty of opportunity to sort it out with what we'd have available on the bench.
Yeah. Just due to time, we'll try and probably move on just to the Champions League very quickly. But I'm probably in agreement with Stevie on this. Get the game won, then we can mess about with subs. As you touched on there, Natasha, we've got 5. We've got strength and depth there. There's no need to, make 8 to 9 changes. Tomorrow night, I'm sure Ange's complete focus in this game, even though we do have the derby game at the weekend. Celtics get the chance to obviously go 5 points clear with that game, and we're welcoming Real Madrid next week. It'll be one game at a time for Ange Postecoglou just now, and he'll be looking at whatever team he sees best fit to probably beat Ross County, and we know it'll be a tough game. Lauren, it's just the last couple of minutes. Obviously, last Thursday we found out our fate in European football. Just quickly from the three of you, I just want to get your take on the group. What was your thoughts on who we were drawn against, Lawrence?
Well, it's a decent group. Happy Callum got his wish. We'll be looking out who's going to be a Johnny Doyle and Alan Sneddon and George McCluskey this year. When Real Madrid come calling. I'm glad, we've got them early. I'm happy with that group. As always, kind of looking to qualify from it. First or second place, I don't care, but qualification's possible.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. Patrick?
I like confidence.
Yep, I like the confidence too.
I'm a big fan of the group. I wanted I think it was Group C or D, the one with Sporting and Tottenham and Frankfurt. That was the one I wanted, but this is probably second best. You've got the big game to kick off. You've then got 4 games which you think you can pick points up in, and then you've got, Madrid away. This might be an out there opinion, but, I think you said to me, they'll probably have qualified, but then they'll probably have...
Well, I'm hoping that's what happens because I'm going, so I really hope they've qualified by then.
So hopefully they're playing a sort of rested side. They're behind Barca in the league and they're not paying attention, and we can maybe get a draw at the Bernabeu. But no, I think it's good. You get the star team and then you get 2 teams who you can at least compete against. And our fancy is to at least get European football after the World Cup. I think we should at least be finishing third, if not maybe stretching for second. I think it's between us and Leipzig for second, but definitely European football after Christmas.
Yeah, I think, Natasha, you and I watched the group together inside Celtic Park. Saw the draw happen live over there. I thought it was a group that had everything in it. We were waiting to see who we were going to get. We got the glamour tie and Real Madrid, and then we go at 2 teams that you'd probably say were definitely beatable at Celtic Park. Maybe saw Leipzig come to Glasgow last season and ultimately lose. And but we've played them at Celtic Park before, won the match, and obviously Shakhtar are going through a real transition just now, just with everything that's going on in Poland and going on in Ukraine, meaning they're going to have to play their games in Poland. So I think it gives Celtic a bit of an advantage getting into this. We're in a position of strength. We've obviously added a lot to our squad, and I think I'd quite fancy Celtic to hopefully get European football after Christmas.
Yeah, so do I, and that's absolutely got to be the aim, and I'm sure it is. There's no reason that we can't finish second in that group. It'll be hard. It's not an easy group, but there's never going to be an easy group in that draw. But like we were saying, Declan, when we were sitting in that room looking at the way that the draw was unfolding, if we'd had to have chosen, I think we sort of narrowed it down to, maybe 2 or 3 that we wanted to go into, and we got one of those. I think it's a good mix of having a tie like Real Madrid, which is obviously very exciting. It'll be a great away trip and things like that. But also it has that balance in that, the other 2 teams in that group, we have to seriously be considering that we should finish above them in the group, which is a good position to be in. I think it's right to say that they were the bottom, if not bottom 2 of both of the pots that they were in. So that's what you're looking for in terms of a draw. So yeah, I think it's exciting because there's exciting on twofold, really. One, that there's going to be some really great ties and some really good games, some really good trips. And on the other hand, it's exciting because there's a real chance of progression. And I hope that we go out there and really do make our mark this season.
Yeah, let's just see how it goes. Obviously, that will kick off next Tuesday. We'll be on here, but before that game. But before then, Premier Sports Cup tie tomorrow against Ross County, Derby game at the weekend, and we'll see where we are come next Tuesday. Thanks to everyone for joining us in the comments. As always, it's very much appreciated. And we will be covering everything, the build up tomorrow, and I'm sure that the usual pre-match, post-match reaction will be on. Please do join us. If you have been watching, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Patrick, Lawrence, Natasha, thank you for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.